do this.
Hey y'all, it's our third episode of Bourbon and Bugs, and today's bug is cockroaches.
I buried those cockroaches.
And our spirit of the day is Mulholland Distillery American Whiskey. And Craig, nice to see you.
Hey, glad to be back with you, Shanoa, love of my life.
Yeah. So we've had a chance to sip on this for a second. What are your thoughts?
This is actually a really good bourbon. It's stronger than some of the other bourbons. It's 100 proof, kind of like a Knob Creek. And way back in my early bourbon drinking years, I actually started with Knob Creek, and I don't know if that's one to start with. It's got a kick to it. It's 100 proof, but somehow this Mulholland, we've been sipping on it now for a couple minutes now. It brings out the sweetness, so it doesn't really have that like oof if you're just drinking it on the rocks like we are. Any bourbon that you're going to mix, I mean, not that we're professional bourbon drinkers, we just love our bourbons and scotches. If you mix it with stuff, it really doesn't matter, I guess, how potent it is. But this one, yeah, so far so good. It's actually, they found a way to take that punch out of being a 100 proof bourbon. So hats off to them for that. Chanel got this bourbon, and I don't know why did you get this bourbon?
Well, let me tell you. So I follow Walton Goggins, and
Is it Goggins?
It's Goggins.
I was gonna say Goggins.
I don't know. Maybe it could be.
No, you're probably right because I can't spell or speak. So
I don't know, but he started advertising it on his Instagram, and I thought, oh, that's cool. You know, we love whiskey, so let's get some. And I thought this would be perfect to pair with Cockroaches because of his show Fallout, which is like an apocalyptic.
Yeah.
And you know, everybody associates cockroaches with the last things to survive. So I thought, oh yeah, this would be a perfect pairing. So, and we also love him in a lot of other shows.
This guy's a great actor,
Yeah.
as far as we're concerned. I mean, every show that we've watched, it's not that we've watched it because he's in it. He just happens to be, so he's landing great roles, as far as I'm concerned. But Fallout is one of the more recent ones. But we actually first saw him in Sons of Anarchy, which most people probably don't know, but he played like you call him a transvestite hooker?
Hooker, yeah. He was so good.
What a great role and a great show.
Remember the show, The Unicorn? We loved The Unicorn.
Oh, yeah. The other one I liked, and I can't believe they didn't bring this back, was Vice Principals.
Oh, Vice Principals.
That was fantastic.
And Justified. We loved
Justified. These, according to us, are great flicks. So Justified is a awesome show. It's right up there with my Sons of Anarchy. And then we just got into, like she said, Fallout and Vice Principals. I'm bummed it didn't come back. That show was hilarious.
Yeah, we love that show. So anyways, shout out to Walton Goggins or Goggins. I don't know which one it is. But this whiskey is delicious. You wouldn't even, it doesn't feel like it's 100 proof.
Doesn't feel 100 proof at all. I mean, it's going to feel 100 proof after
it has a little
glass
bit of burn, like as if you were thinking, or if you were comparing it to Woodford, because Woodford is super smooth, but it's also 90 proof.
Yeah, Woodford's 90. Yeah, so but it's pretty close.
It's like you can almost taste the barrel. It's just delicious. It's really good. So hats off.
Very sweet. I like it.
Hats off to Walton and his partner for this delicious whiskey.
And they another. I don't know that we get paid by them. I didn't even know about them until she bought this. But they also make a gin and a vodka. I'm not a gin or vodka drinker, so I can't vouch for how well those are or how good those are. She knows more of those gin and vodka drinks, but we haven't tested them, so couldn't tell you.
We got them. We just I haven't tested them yet.
Oh, I didn't even know we had them. Oh, so we have them. Yeah. But this show is Bourbon and Bugs. So cheers.
Yay.
Let's get into it. Episode 3. All right, let's do it. You want to start us off?
So today we're talking about cockroaches. So we'll probably just go into a lot of fun facts about cockroaches. And when I think about cockroaches, I think about I don't know if you all ever saw that movie or was it Creepshow? I think it was Stephen King. I don't know, but gosh, I don't even remember what it was about. But the apartment was like infested with cockroaches. And then you don't see any cockroaches, and then you find all the cockroaches stuffed they all infested the chick and they start pouring out of her mouth. That's disgusting.
What's the matter, Mr. Pratt? Bugs got your tongue?
Yeah,
Good show. Good show.
that's
Good movie.
repulsive. Yeah.
So, anyways, I feel like it's like if you're talking about just about any pest, I think cockroaches are the one that the people like top on the list that people do not want to have.
Cockroaches, bed bugs,
Yeah.
those two. But we're going to talk in general. We're not going to break down every cockroach out there.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk probably more on the German side of it, but German, Oriental, and American. Those are the typical cockroaches that most people deal with. Now, you can deal with some other ones, but those get the biggest numbers. So let's get into some fun facts.
Yeah. I was going over the fun facts and I thought this was insane. Like, I think the worst one is that they can live for a week. Is it a week without their head?
That's freaking nasty.
Who can live for a week without their head?
I looked into it after I saw that fun fact, finding out how they can do that. It's because they breathe through openings in like their skeleton, I guess you would say. So the only reason they die is because they can't drink water. So
because they can only go a week without water.
Because they don't, there's no head, no drinky.
That's so crazy.
That's a trip.
It's disgusting.
That's why they say that a nuclear apocalypse, that'd probably be the only thing that would live would be the roaches.
Yeah. What was the other? They can live for 30 days without food, which was pretty interesting. 30 days without food, but only 1 week without water.
One of the ones that I thought was cool, I don't want to steal your thunder. Were you going to talk about the female and the reproduction?
No, go ahead.
So one of the fun facts that I thought was crazy was the female only needs one male partner within her lifetime because she basically stores the sperm. That's kind of crazy. So she gets it on one time and she's good to go for the rest of her life. Cycle through, baby blue.
Wow.
And I think it's like, I don't know if this is which specific roach this is or if it's in general, but it's like the male, what is it? The male can live like a year, but the female can live like 7 years. I think it's something like that, something crazy like that.
They live long.
It's just they're nasty. I don't even like doing roach jobs. They're nasty. You go and you move something, and hundreds of roaches scatter out from underneath, and it's all the small ones, and they're freaking fast. Did you read that thing on how fast they can run?
Yeah, well, I read that even like a day-old baby cockroach can run just as fast as an adult cockroach.
Yeah, that's a trip, and something like 3 miles in an hour.
Yeah.
I've seen some track teams that can't perform that well. I think we saw one at the high school last weekend. Just saying.
I did read that they carry 33 types of bacteria, and the worst part was like they carry 6 types of parasitic worms. It's disgusting.
That's nasty.
Like, I feel like that's one of my worst fears is getting worms.
Nasty.
Oh. Yeah, so that's bad. So that's, I guess, some good encouragement to keep your house cockroach free, right? So let's talk about. Do you have any stories of?
Man, I have so many stories. It's ridiculous, and some of them are self-inflicted, just from being dirty, and then some of them they just like a lot of the restaurants that will service they just bring them in on produce or items they buy. They can come in on the cardboard boxes because they eat the glue on the boxes. So it's really hard, especially in industrial type buildings like restaurants, to not get roaches. I mean, yes, you're diligent with your pest control company and doing the things that they recommend that you do, and then checking your produce and getting rid of boxes and not storing them. But even that doesn't mean you're not going to get them. And then it also doesn't mean that you're filthy. There's restaurants that are extremely clean and they just happen to get one and they nip it in the butt and it's, it's a done deal. But it's the ones that let it go and they don't care about the cleanliness. They keep things on the ground. So when you do hire a service provider, he can't get his chemical or baits where he needs to get them to do that job right for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's important to.
You're doing the mic hold today.
Yeah, I lost
I
a
like
little
that.
clip.
Okay. You want
Oh.
to trade?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So let's talk about what we could do to make sure to keep them out, and then also if we do have them, what we need to do as far as chemical treatments.
I thought
Do
you wanted a
it.
story.
Oh,
Because
well, I didn't know. You
I have a
looked
story.
at me. So tell
Okay,
me.
so let me give you this story.
Mhm.
So I went to an apartment complex, and I was speaking to the lady that lived in the unit, and she had a breakfast table, kind of like, a little higher than this, with stools. And we sat down, and usually I like to start with, give me a rundown of what's going on, and let's talk about how long you've been dealing with this, when you see them, and so on and so on. And she sat there eating her cereal and talking to me, and she said, well, let me show you. And she put the bowl down, and we walked over to the stove, and she opened up the oven door, and roaches were flowing east and west like it was the 91 freeway. That's the freeway down by us, but it was just the freeway. It was no exaggeration amazing. They were just scattering back and forth. And the reason being is, I don't know the technical name for this, but they're sensitive to light. So that's why generally when you have a bad infestation and you flip a light on, they scatter. And that's when you tend to see them. But man, she opened that oven and they just scurried, and she said, yeah, it's right here, and it's not that bad. And I thought, you're not saying this out loud, but in your head, you're going, not that bad? Are you kidding me? So we went back to the table, and right before we sat down, we looked at her bowl, and it was infested with roaches. They must have been like under the table, like up in here. They literally were just waiting for that free food for her to walk away from it and then commandeer that cereal. And some people, I don't know, it's weird. It's the mindset. They just think that that's not that bad, and they're used to it. And there's some people that freak out. If I had one or two, I'm going into DEFCON 4, and breaking out everything I have to nip them in the butt, because I know how bad it can get. So we end up taking care of that situation. But we go to places all the time, and they just act like that. And even with the bedbug jobs, it's really weird. People just think they just assume it's normal and it's an everyday thing that people deal with, and it's actually not. You can nip this in the butt before it's way out of control like that.
Yeah.
So that's the one story that comes to mind that I think about when we've done cockroach jobs over the years.
So as far as you notice you have roaches, what do we need to do as far as keeping them out, killing them? So as Mr. Pest Controller.
I don't know, but I'm going to be drunk before this episode's over. We were sipping on this before we started the video. Question again, please.
Shoot, maybe we should pause and sober up.
All I heard was Mr. Pest Controller.
I was saying, what do you think is if you see a cockroach in your house, what should you do as far as treating it and then making sure it doesn't happen again?
Okay, so most of these cockroaches are the same thing. They eat just about anything. So you want to be clean. You want crumbs, debris, things around the stove cleaned up. Kitchens seem to be the big spot, the hot spot for the roaches.
Bathrooms too.
Yeah, bathrooms. And then it just kind of spreads from there because they just go out. So leaky pipes, that'll give them good harborage. You want to take care of that. You don't want stuff under sinks that are, water that's settling in puddles. And then it's like the other videos we've talked about. You want to have doors and windows sealed up. But if you do get them, you got to be proactive. You got to kind of jump on it, not be nonchalant about it, and think, it's just, not a big deal. The big deal not a big deal in your head ends up being a big deal, or maybe not for you in the long run. But they multiply so fast. I don't know the exact statistic on how fast they multiply, but it's a couple weeks they're in adulthood, I think, isn't it?
I don't know. I left our fun facts upstairs. So.
Yeah, I think it's a couple weeks that they 7 to 10 days or something like that. Don't quote me on that, but I mean it's
crazy fast.
Yeah, it's not like it takes months, like 9 months, like a kid. It's really fast, and then the numbers that they reproduce in are insane. So they even protect their egg sacs. They're like encapsulated. So when we talk about a micro encapsulated, I don't know if we spoke about this in other, I think we have in other videos. Micro encapsulated versus a film spray means that that pesticide is protected in this micro encapsulation. So their eggs are like that. They're in there and protective. So if something happens to, like, you know, I mean, if you totally smashed it with your foot, you'd kill them. But it can take a lot of abuse and still survive that egg sac, and then just reproduce. And it's hundreds and hundreds per life cycle for the female that they reproduce. You definitely want things off the floor. You don't want to be that pack rat, you know, that just leaves the, especially restaurants are big for this. They'll, instead of putting it on the wired shelving that they're supposed to have, stainless steel wired shelving, they'll stack like their oils on the ground and their rags, and they're just not diligent about being neat. And that just comes down to their staff. You know, they're just trying to get out of there at night, clock out and go home, you know, do 8, hit the gate type thing. But cleanliness is really big with roaches for sure, versus some of your other insects where it just happens.
So would you suggest a person uses a roach bait in conjunction with a spray, or how would you treat
Go ahead. The first thing I'm going to recommend is another bourbon.
load her up? So
nothing like getting pest control at voice from drunks. No, we're sober. Really, we're sober. So back to your question, baits are your best friend. When it comes to roaches, baits are the number one thing you want to go to. But it does, now I've seen bad infestations, if baited right, wiped out, and you need nothing else. But if you need to hit this with everything in your arsenal, then you want to go with a bait. And there are fantastic baits out there. Advion Cockroach gel bait is fantastic. Vendetta makes a plethora of different baits. We like the Plus. That's an awesome one.
Nitro's good.
Nitro's good. It depends on your infestation. That's why there's different ones, and it's for bait aversion, which means basically you don't want the roaches, especially in commercial establishments where they're going to get them, you know, probably constantly, getting used to a bait, and then they build up an immunity to it. So you don't want that. That's why people change baits. Vendetta Plus and a lot of these other baits, they have what is called an IGR. Tell them a little bit about IGRs.
IGR is an insect growth regulator. So when they ingest that, it's like a birth control. So it mutates their body in a way where they can't reproduce anymore. So they become deformed, and so it's a really good thing as far as when you're dealing with a heavy roach infestation. So.
Yeah, insect growth regulator. That's what the IGR is. It's real simple, and it does just what Chanel said. It stops the reproduction cycle. So you want a bait with that, or a chemical that has that in it. It's easier to put it in the bait, but you can also put it in the chemical spray too. Now, when you do a chemical treatment on top of that, do not contaminate your baits. It's like putting poison on your food. You're not going to eat your burger if somebody just hit it with Raid. So it's the same thing with the roach baits. And people, what I've found is the baits are in little syringe tubes, and it's the size of a pinhead. I always have my pinky up, but it's half the size of my pinky nail. It's just the size of a pinhead that goes out, and more is less. These
Less
people,
is more?
Less is more? Wow, we got to stop drinking. Less is more. But people put out too much, and you waste the bait. It'll hold up for months on end if it's not contaminated by anything. But just little dots here and there, whether it's behind the fridge, behind the microwave, it's usually in inconspicuous areas. If you need to put that on the countertop because you're like, man, I go in the kitchen, I flip the lights on, the roaches run all over the place, put it on a little piece of cardboard. Then when you're done with that, you can just toss the cardboard in the trash, and you haven't put a bait on top of your countertop. It's not the end-all be-all if you put the bait on top of your countertop, though. It's just an easier way of doing it. So if there's areas that you think the bait might damage or you don't want it, then just put it on little cardboard strips. And then once you're done with it, like I said, toss it in the trash.
So a good protocol would be spray treatment first, a
Yes.
non-repellent spray treatment. So you
Yes.
don't want something that's going to repel
Tell them about
the
non-repellents.
bugs from. You don't want a pest spray that's going to repel the bugs from the bait. So a repellent pesticide would be something that keeps them away. Obviously, the name is repels them. So you want one that's a non-repellent, and then you wait for that to dry, and then you can apply your baits.
Yeah. Let the bait dry.
You let the bait on the bait or the.
I'm sorry. We've really got to stop drinking.
We're gonna have to edit all this out.
At least me. The spray. Let the spray dry indoors. 30 minutes at the most, because you're just spraying a little mist here and there, where you need to get that. And same thing, get that in the areas, and then once it dries, go back through with the bait, put the bait out. Now, here's the other thing. Dusts work really well too. So dust come into play areas that you cannot put a liquid. So electrical outlets are like a really good example of that. So you pop the covers off. You pop the covers off, put a little dust in there. And remember, dust needs to float. So you're not going to put dust in and let it clump and just kind of go boom and just settle. That's too much dust. People just always have this assumption, from what I found over the years, that just putting out way more is going to do a better job. It's not. You just put a little dust and it's made to float in there. We've talked about this in previous videos. Put a penny into whatever the dusting application, whether it's the bottle or you actually have purchased a duster from howtopest.com. Howtopest.com. And shake it up. The penny kind of like ionizes and agitates the dust and helps it to float better. So just a little trick. And I think I learned that from an old pest control guy a long time ago. And it does work really well. So you got your baits, you got your sprays, you got your dust. Those are the things that I would stick with. But realize you don't necessarily need all those. You may bait that thing first and see what's going on, or you may spray it first. I like baits first over sprays when it comes to cockroach jobs. But if you're, go ahead.
I was going to say that Avian and Max Force both have cockroach bait stations too, which are awesome. So you could put those little cockroach bait stations under the sink or in the cabinets if you don't want to actually use. Those work really well because when you buy a pack of roach gel, I mean, that thing's going to last you for years.
Yeah, it's
if you're just a homeowner. But you can buy the Avian cockroach arenas, and I think it's a pack of 12, and you place those out. It's probably just a little bit more cost effective for you, and you don't have 3.5 plungers sitting around of pesticides sitting around. But it just depends. It depends if you have a really bad infestation or you're treating a fourplex or something like that. Obviously, you're going to want.
Yeah. So what comes to mind when Chanot's saying that? The bait stations, it's basically the syringe gel just in a station. They go in, eat it, same thing. So, and it's protected. That's actually what's nice about that too. So like she's saying, you can put that on your countertops and areas you need to put that, and the bait's actually contained in the little station itself. They also have a sticker on the back, so they can go horizontally or vertically on a wall. Mm-hmm. So it does make them a little more versatile. The bait just allows you, professionals like the baits because we can just go in and just, a little squirt here, and we know where the activity is and we know where we need to put it versus putting out the bait stations. That just brought to mind Gentrol Point Source. Mm-hmm. That's a fantastic item too, product. What it does, it puts out a pheromone, like a scent, and it stops the reproduction cycle too. So, and they hold up for 4 months at a time, Gentrol Point Source?
I think so.
I think they hold up for 4 months at a time. So
it's an IGR though, right?
Yeah. So that's a great product in conjunction. So here's a real life scenario of how those get used. We go and we do the treatments we just talked about on our restaurants and facilities like that. But then in all of our facilities, we put a point source in there. And depending on how many we need, I think one point source covers a 10 by 10 area. Now, everything I throw out here area-wise, look it up on the label, make sure it matches with what I'm telling
I'll
you.
make sure I put in the facts.
Chanel will fact check me and correct it in the video and edit me out, but I'm pretty sure it's 10 by 10. But so you may need more than one in a facility. They're perfectly safe to be around. That's not going to affect you as a human, but it really does a job on the roaches.
Mm-hmm.
So we put that out as kind of like our little force field safeguard barrier to hopefully if something comes along, it wipes them out. But it's not an instant kill. It takes time with those, but it stops that cycle of the reproduction like an IGR does. So that's another good choice too. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, we're giving you a total arsenal. Most houses don't have this. But if you have a bad infestation, I would do what we just said. I would hit that thing with everything you have. I would start with the spray. I'd let it dry. I'd go back and put my bait with an IGR. If you're doing a spray with an IGR, you can get one that already has it in it, or you can get Gentrol, which is the name of an IGR liquid, and it will mix with your chemical of choice, which will probably be Alpine, WSG. That's a beautiful item. You'll mix those together, and it's giving you what an IGR would be inside of a bait. In the bait is actually easier because it's already there, right?
Yeah, we also do carry a lot of pesticides that have the IGR in them. So if you're just...
Doesn't Navigator have that? I think Navigator. No?
I don't know, but you can't use Navigator inside, right?
I believe so. I can use Navigator inside.
Anyways, we have on the website, though, we have plenty of pesticides that have IGRs in them. So it just makes it a little bit easier than you don't have to think about. I mean, if you're a professional, then obviously you want a whole bunch of different things. But for a homeowner and you just want to take care of the problem, just go in there and find a pesticide with it. And then you can even go to, roach bait stations and all that good stuff. So
yeah, see, most professionals are going to know like which route they want to go, determining what they're treating and what product they've used so many times at that location, how they're going to go about it. Most homeowners, sometimes this can be overwhelming. So to really simplify this, I know I've already said this 100 times, but to simplify it, go with a bait first. Get a bait with an IGR and bait the area of concern, kitchen, bathroom, whatever it may be, and see if that does the job. And it's fast. Baits work fast. I'm not talking about overnight fast, but within a week, you're either going to see no activity or it's going to have gone way down depending on your infestation, right? So if you think, hey, I already have a really bad infestation, I'm overwhelmed, then get the spray. Alpine is a fantastic product, but there's no Alpine with an IGR in it. So you get the Alpine, you get a Gentrol, you mix them together, you do the spray, right? Gentrol comes in those little bottles, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. So Gentrol will come in little bottles or which is in a liquid, or it'll come in they're both liquids, or it'll come in a big single use. That's what I was looking for. Single use, which is actually great for a homeowner. So little single use, little ounce, 1 ounce, 1 gallon. And then mix that with your Alpine WSG, which is going to be, this is what's beautiful too about Alpine. You don't need the big bottle. Buy an individual pack, and 1 pack is 1 gallon of water. It's granule too, which is really nice. Fill your sprayer up with about half water. Dump in your granule, the WSG, Alpine WSG. Mix it up. Take your little single dose of Gentrol. Dump it in. Mix it up. Fill it up the rest of the way. So now you have 1 gallon solution. Shake it really well again, and go through and spray where you need to spray. Okay, perfectly safe for indoors. Labeled food establishments, indoor, nursing homes. It's got such a broad label. That's what makes it fantastic, and it works really well. It's a non-repellent. Do I feel like I'm fired up?
Yeah.
I'm a little aggressive right now.
Yeah.
Huh? I'm looking at my arm movements on the thing. So anyways.
Scared.
Anyways, once that dries, hit it with the your bait of choice, whether it's Vendetta, Avion. What's the other one? There's a bunch of baits. Those are just fantastic ones, and there's other fantastic ones. You can look up cockroach baits in the search bar on our website. It'll pop them all up. You can look up IGRs in the search bar. Our actual site makes it really easy to find the chemical you need by punching in what we're talking about. And then we're here to help you too. So if you need to do a phone call to us, hit us up. We're happy to answer some questions. And I need to lose some weight. Okay, go ahead. But that's the gist of cockroach treatments. Mm-hmm. If you hit it with that, you're going to hit it just like a professional would.
I would make sure that you go around your house too. I think we say this in all the videos, but I mean, an adult cockroach can get in something as thin as a quarter. So that's super thin. So if you're walking around the house and you have just like your little caulking gun or something like that, or filler, just fill in any little thing that you see around the house that could possibly be an entry point. Um, that might help. You
Yeah.
never know.
And then outdoor roaches too, like your American roaches. That's definitely going to be a spray type treatment. The Germans are going to be more your baits. It's not to say that there's not baits that work for the Americans that do get inside and are outside, but they typically be. Why are you rolling your eyes at me? So, anyways, they typically are a spray. I just have to slow down. It's the ADD. ADD? No. And then baits, like, and I'm not talking the baits like we just talked about. I'm talking about granule baits. Those work fantastic for lawns and garden areas for the Americans. Oriental is going to be in your, if you're wondering, Oriental is going to be in the moist areas, boiler rooms, basements, things like that. And I don't know if they just, but I just found out about it. They found a leap roach. You know what that means?
The jump.
Yes, like a grasshopper. Can you imagine? This little freaking bad boy is hopping all over the house chasing you. Okay, she's had enough. And obviously, I have too. But hats off to Mulholland's.
Well, I think we're done.
I'm pretty sure that I'm done. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you guys for watching another episode. And I apologize for, I won't name any names, but hope to see you next time. And thanks for watching. Please subscribe, follow, like, all that good stuff helps us out. Have a good day.